The void between universes was not empty. It was filled with the heavy silence of things that had been erased. The Grand Priest stood floating in a place that had no floor and no ceiling. He looked at a small glowing orb. The orb represented a universe that had failed to meet the standard level of quality. He closed his hand. The orb vanished. It did not break or shatter. It simply ceased to exist. Trillions of lives ended in less than a second. There was no pain, because there was no time for pain. There was only math. The math said they were weak, so they were removed. This was the cold logic of the Tournament of Power. Survival was not a right. It was a prize for the strong. Far away in Universe 7, the destroyer god Beerus sat on a tree stump. He was eating a slice of pizza, but he did not taste it. He was thinking about the math. He looked at the team of 10 warriors standing on the grass. He saw Goku and Vegeta. They were strong. He saw Frieza. He was evil but powerful. Then he saw the old man. Master Roshi was wise. He knew many techniques, but Beerus looked at his old bones. He heard the slow beat of his heart. In a battle against monsters who could shake galaxies, the old man was a crack in their armor. A single mistake would mean the end of everything. Beerus stood up. He dropped the pizza. He told Whis that the plan had to change. The old man could not go. They needed something else. They needed a force that understood survival better than any mortal. They needed a king who had fought for 10,000 years without resting. Whis tapped his staff on the ground. A blue light appeared. He told Beerus that such a being existed, but he was not in the normal world. He was trapped in a pocket of reality that was rotting away. He was a man who was also a corpse. He sat on a throne of gold and ate the souls of his own people to keep a light burning in the dark. Beerus did not care about the morality. He only cared about the power. He told Whis to take them there. He told Goku to come along. Goku asked if this new guy was strong. Whis said he was strong in a way that Goku would not like. He said this man did not fight for fun. He fought because he had no choice. They stepped into the blue light and vanished from the bright green grass of Earth. They traveled through the space between dimensions. The light faded. They arrived in a place that smelled of rust and dried blood. The air in the throne room was thick and hard to breathe. It was not like the clean air of Earth. It tasted like old iron and smoke. The room was the size of a city. The ceiling was lost in shadows miles above their heads. Massive pillars of dark stone held up the roof. On every pillar there were skulls carved into the rock. Some of the skulls were stone, but many were real. Goku covered his nose and mouth. He felt sick. He was used to villains who destroyed things. He was not used to a place that felt like it had been dying for 100 centuries. There was a low hum in the air. It was a sound that made their teeth hurt. It was the sound of machines that were too old to be fixed. Beerus floated over the metal floor. He looked at the crowds of people. There were thousands of them. They wore red robes and had metal parts replacing their eyes and hands. They were the tech priests. They scuttled like beetles across the floor. They did not look up. They were too busy oiling the gears and praying to the machines. They chanted in a language that sounded like grinding rocks. In the center of the room stood a mountain of gold steps. At the top of the steps was a chair, and on the chair sat the wreckage of a giant. This was the emperor of mankind. He was not moving. His skin was grey and tight against his bones. He looked like a mummy that had been left in the desert. Wires and tubes ran from the golden chair into his skull and his chest. The tubes pumped strange fluids into him. The machine hummed loudly. It was keeping him alive, but it was also a prison. Goku felt a pressure in his head. It was not like the energy of a fighter. It was like the weight of a planet. The Emperor was not asleep. His mind was screaming into the void to keep the demons away. He was holding a door shut with his mind. If he let go for 1 second, the monsters from the warp would flood Earth and eat every human. A group of warriors in tall golden helmets blocked the path. They were the Custodes. They held spears that crackled with blue lightning. They were taller than Goku and wider than Vegeta. They did not speak. They simply lowered their spears. They would not let anyone near the throne. Whis smiled politely. He tapped his staff. The Custodes froze. They did not turn to ice. They simply stopped moving in time. Their eyes could still see, but their bodies were locked. Whis floated past them. He floated up the golden steps. Beerus followed him. Goku walked slowly behind them. He looked at the man on the chair. He felt sad. He saw the pain radiating from the skeleton. This was not a life. This was torture. Beerus stopped in front of the throne. He crossed his arms. He spoke to the corpse. He said they had a proposition. He explained the tournament of power. He explained that if Universe 7 lost, this reality would be erased. The Imperium would be gone. The Chaos Gods would be gone. The throne would be dust. There would be nothing. He said he needed a tactician. He needed someone who could see the future and make the hard choices. He offered a reward. If they won, the Emperor could use the Super Dragon Balls. He could wish for anything. He could wish for his body to be healed. He could wish for the webway to be fixed. He could wish for the war to end. The skeleton did not move. The mouth did not open. But a voice spoke in their minds. It was not a human voice. It sounded like a fire burning in a library. It was dry and hot and full of knowledge. The Emperor asked why he should trust a Xenos god. Beerus laughed. He said trust was not required. Only survival matters. The Emperor was silent for a long time. The machines hummed. The tech priests below continued their chanting. They did not know that a god was bargaining with their master. The Emperor looked at the future. He used his mind to see the branching paths of time. He saw 1,000,000 futures where he stayed on the throne. In all of them, the Imperium slowly died. The rot was too deep. Then he saw the future where he went with them. It was dangerous. The risks were infinite. But it was the only path that offered a solution. The Super Dragon Balls were a technology beyond the grasp of the Elder or the Necrons. They could rewrite reality. He could save humanity in a single moment. He made his choice. The voice in their head spoke again. It was heavy with authority. He accepted the terms, but he had a condition. He could not leave the throne physically without the gate opening. The demons would pour in. Whis nodded. He said he could fix that temporarily. Whis raised his staff. He spun it in a circle. A bubble of transparent energy formed around the throne room. It was a time seal. Inside the bubble, time would stop completely once they left. The gate would remain shut, because no time would pass for it to open. The Emperor would be free to project his mind and a portion of his power into a construct. The Emperor agreed. The wires and tubes hissed. Sparks flew from the golden chair. The tech priest below stopped chanting. They looked up in horror. They saw the light of the Astronomicon flicker. Panic began to spread. They thought their god was dying. They did not understand he was waking up. Energy gathered around the skeleton. It was golden light. It solidified. It took the shape of a man. He stood 12 feet tall. He wore golden armor with an eagle on the chest. His hair was long and black. His face was stern and handsome. It was the Emperor, as he had been 10,000 years ago. This was not his physical body. That was still rotting on the chair. This was a psychic projection made solid by sheer will. It was strong enough to hit a tank and break it. The Emperor stepped down from the throne. His boots clanked on the metal steps. The sound echoed like a gunshot. He looked at Goku. His eyes were like looking into the sun. He did not smile. He analyzed Goku. He saw the alien DNA. He saw the kindness. He considered it a weakness. He looked at Beerus. He saw a creature of destruction. He respected the function but despised the arrogance. He looked at Whis. He saw an angel. He knew angels were dangerous. Goku put out his hand to shake. He said he was glad to have a new teammate. The Emperor did not shake his hand. He looked at the hand as if it were covered in dirt. He told Goku to lower his limb. He said they were not friends. They were temporary allies in a war for existence. He walked past Goku. He told Beerus to take them to the battlefield. He said he had no time to waste on pleasantries. His empire was waiting. Every second he was away was a risk. Whis tapped his staff again. The blue light returned. They vanished from the throne room. The moment they left, the time bubble activated. The room froze. The sparks froze in the air. The tech priests froze with their mouths open in a scream. The golden throne was silent. The chamber was locked in a single moment of history until the Emperor returned. They appeared back in the world of void. The arena was a giant spinning top floating in nothingness. The other fighters from Universe 7 were already there. Gohan was stretching his legs. Piccolo was meditating. The androids were standing together. Vegeta was leaning against a rock with his eyes closed. Frieza was floating in his hover chair with a smirk on his face. The arrival of the Emperor changed the air pressure. Everyone stopped moving. They felt the psychic weight of him. It was a heavy, cold feeling. It felt like judgment. Vegeta opened his eyes. He looked at the giant man in gold armor. He felt a prickle of sweat on his forehead. Vegeta was a prince. He knew what a king looked like. This man was a king of kings. But Vegeta also felt the arrogance. It rivaled his own. Frieza looked at the Emperor. The smile dropped from his face. Frieza was used to being the most terrifying thing in the room. He looked at the Emperor's eyes. He saw no fear. He saw a mirror. The Emperor looked at Frieza. He saw a mutant. He saw a Xenos tyrant. In the history of the Imperium, the Emperor had ordered the extermination of thousands of species like Frieza. He did not see a teammate. He saw a target that he was not allowed to kill yet. Goku introduced everyone. He pointed to Gohan and said this was his son. The Emperor looked at Gohan. He saw the potential. He also saw the hesitation. He marked Gohan as a tactical asset that needed direction. He pointed to Piccolo. He said this was a Namekian. The Emperor frowned. A Xenos. He pointed to the androids. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Abominable intelligence. Machines that thought like men were forbidden. They were dangerous. They had caused the dark age of technology. He kept his hand near his sword. He would watch them. If they malfunctioned, he would destroy them. Beerus clapped his hands. He told them to listen. He said the strategy was simple. Knock the other universes off the edge. Do not kill them. Survive until the time runs out. The Emperor spoke. His voice was calm and deep. He said the strategy was flawed. He said survival was not passive. Survival was the active removal of threats. He said they needed a formation. He looked at the group. He saw a collection of brawlers. They had no discipline. They fought as individuals. That was how armies lost. He pointed to Piccolo and Gohan. He told them that they were the rear guard. They had reach and intelligence. They would protect the weak spots. He pointed to the androids. He told them they were the shield. They had infinite energy. They would absorb the initial barrages. He pointed to Vegeta and Goku. He told them they were the spear. They would break the enemy lines. He pointed to Frieza. He told the alien to act as a disruptor. Frieza laughed. He asked who put the Gold Man in charge. The Emperor did not raise his voice. He simply turned his head. His eyes glowed with psychic power. He projected a memory into Frieza's mind. It was a memory of 1,000 worlds burning. It was a memory of entire star systems being purged. Frieza saw the scale of the Emperor's cruelty. It was a cold, bureaucratic cruelty. Frieza stopped laughing. He decided he would play along for now. The Grand Priest's voice echoed over the arena. He announced that the tournament would begin. 80 warriors from 8 universes stood on the giant stage. The air was tense. Some fighters were shaking. Others were shouting. The Emperor stood perfectly still. He did not draw his sword. He simply folded his arms. He was analyzing the enemies. He saw the Pride Troopers of Universe 11. He saw the robots of Universe 3. He saw the magical girls of Universe 2. He catalogued their weaknesses. The gong sounded. The tournament began. Explosions erupted instantly. Beams of energy crossed the arena. The ground shook. Goku ran forward to find a fight. Vegeta flew to the left to find his own opponent. The Emperor did not move. He stood in the center of the chaotic swirl. A warrior from Universe 9 charged at him. It was a wolf man with sharp claws. The wolf swung at the Emperor's neck. The Emperor did not dodge. He raised one hand. He caught the wolf's wrist. The armor on his gauntlet did not scratch. The Emperor looked at the wolf. He saw a beast. He twisted his wrist. There was a snap. The wolf howled and fell back. The Emperor kicked him in the chest. It was a simple, efficient kick. The wolf flew across the arena and tumbled off the edge. The Emperor did not celebrate. He did not taunt. He scanned the battlefield again. He saw that the team was already breaking apart. Goku was getting surrounded. Krillin was looking nervous. The Emperor tapped the side of his helmet. He used his telepathy. He spoke into the minds of all 9 teammates at once. His voice was a command. He told them to tighten the circle. He told them that isolation meant death. Goku heard the voice in his head. It was distracting. He wanted to fight the strong guys one-on-one. He told the Emperor to be quiet. The Emperor replied instantly. He told Goku that his desire for a duel was a tactical error. He explained that if Goku fell, the line would break. Goku ignored him. He flew off to fight a large green man. The Emperor sighed. It was a dry, dusty sound. He realized that leading this team would be harder than unifying terror. These demigods were children. They had power but no discipline. He walked forward. He moved with the slow weight of a glacier. A robot from Universe 3 spun its metal arms and attacked him. The Emperor pulled his sword. The blade was made of fire and psychic energy. He swung it once. The robot was sliced in half. The cut was clean. The robot exploded. The Emperor walked through the smoke. He was not looking for a fight. He was looking for the strongest enemy. He needed to understand the threat level. He looked across the arena and saw Jiren. Jiren was standing still. He was not fighting anyone. His eyes were closed. The Emperor felt the power radiating from him. It was silent and massive. It was not like the chaotic energy of chaos. It was pure strength. The Emperor recognized the peer. He knew that Jiren was the hurdle. To win the Dragon Balls, he would have to dismantle that wall. But not yet. The Emperor turned his attention to his own team. Krillin was in trouble. A Birdman from Universe 4 was diving at him. Krillin was blinded by a solar flare. He could not see. The Emperor extended his hand. He did not fire a blast. He used his mind. He gripped the Birdman in a psychic hold. The bird stopped in mid-air. It squawked in confusion. The Emperor crushed his hand into a fist. The invisible grip tightened. The Birdman passed out from the pressure. The Emperor flicked his finger. The Birdman was tossed out of the ring. Krillin wiped his eyes. He looked around. He saw the golden giant standing 50 feet away. The Emperor nodded once. It was not a friendly nod. It was the nod a general gives to a soldier who almost failed. Krillin gulped. He ran back toward Gohan and Piccolo. He realized that the new guy was scary, but he was useful. The Emperor checked the time. Only 1 minute had passed. 47 minutes remained. He calculated the rate of fatigue. At this pace, the humans on the team would tire in 20 minutes. He needed to conserve their energy. He spoke into their minds again. He ordered a defensive rotation. He told Piccolo to coordinate the left flank. He told 17 and 18 to suppress the enemy fire. He was imposing Imperial doctrine on a chaotic brawl. It was working. The team stabilized. They stopped running around randomly. They began to move like a unit. Beerus watched from the stands. He was eating another slice of pizza. He smiled. He saw what the Emperor was doing. He was not just fighting. He was managing the resource of the team. Whis nodded. He said that this was the difference between a fighter and a ruler. A fighter wants to win the bout. A ruler wants to win the war. But the Emperor felt something else. He felt a strain in his chest. His physical body on the throne was far away, but the link was stretching. Using this much power was costing him. He felt his soul burning at the edges. He ignored the pain. He had endured pain for 10,000 years. He focused on the battlefield. He saw a new threat emerging. Frost, from Universe 6, was sneaking around the edge. He was targeting Master Roshi's replacement. He thought the big man in armor was slow. Frost prepared a needle with poison. The Emperor did not turn around. He had sensed the malice. Malice was a smell he knew well. When Frost lunged, the Emperor spun. He did not use his sword. He used the back of his hand. He slapped Frost. The impact sounded like a thunderclap. Frost spun in the air 3 times and crashed into the ground. His poison needle broke. The Emperor stepped on Frost's chest. He looked down. He saw the resemblance to Frieza. He felt disgust. He lifted Frost by the neck. He walked to the edge. He dropped him. The Emperor dusted off his hands. 2 down. 70 warriors left. The war was just beginning. He looked at the timer. He calculated the odds. They were still low, but they were not 0. He tightened his grip on his sword. He marched forward into the chaos. The tournament clock ticked down. 46 minutes remained. The arena was a landscape of broken tiles and rising smoke. To a normal human, this place was hell. To the Emperor of Mankind, it was a familiar office. He stood near the edge of the fighting stage. He did not run. He did not fly. He conserved every ounce of energy. His mind was a radar. He swept the area for threats. He felt the burning ki of Goku and Vegeta far away. They had abandoned the formation. This was a tactical error. In the wars of the 41st millennium, a soldier who left the line was shot for desertion. Here, the Emperor could only watch them go. He catalogued their foolishness. He adjusted his plan. The Emperor looked at the remaining team members near him. Gohan, Piccolo, Tien, and Master Roshi's replacement, himself. The androids were nearby but moving independently. The Emperor spoke into Gohan's mind. He told the boy to stop watching his father. He told him to watch the perimeter. Gohan flinched. The voice in his head was loud. It felt like a heavy stone. Gohan nodded. He signaled Piccolo. They formed a back-to-back stance. The Emperor approved. This was basic infantry doctrine. Secure the immediate ground. A shadow fell over them. 3 warriors from Universe 9 approached. These were the trio de danger. They were wolves with different fur colors. They moved with a pack mentality. The Emperor recognized this. He had created the Space Wolves Legion. He knew how pack hunters fought. They isolated a target. They swarmed. They used speed to confuse the prey. The Emperor stepped forward to meet them. He wanted to test their discipline. Bergamo, the giant blue wolf, laughed. He pointed at the Emperor. He called him a shiny toy. He said they would chew him up. The Emperor did not respond with words. He raised his sword. The fire on the blade burned brighter. He calculated the distance. He waited for them to commit. Basil, the red wolf, jumped. He was the kicker. He shot beams of red energy from his legs. The Emperor did not block. He stepped to the side. The movement was minimal. The beams scorched the ground where he had stood. The Emperor swung his sword in a flat arc. He was not trying to kill. Killing was forbidden. He was trying to break their bones. The flat of the blade hit Basil in the ribs. There was a crunch. Basil flew sideways and crashed into a rock. But the other two were already moving. Lavender, the yellow wolf, blew a cloud of purple poison. The Emperor saw the gas. His armor was sealed, but this poison was magical. It tried to eat through the golden metal. The Emperor used his mind. He created a telekinetic wall. He pushed the air away from him. The poison cloud reversed. It blew back into Lavender's face. The wolf coughed and rubbed his eyes. It seemed easy, but then the catastrophe happened. While the Emperor was focused on the wolves, he felt a sudden drop in pressure. He looked to his right. Tien was fighting a sniper from Universe 2. The sniper was hiding in the rubble. Tien was using his multi-form technique. He had split into 4 copies. This was a mistake. It divided his power. The Emperor had calculated this risk. He had tried to warn Tien, but the psychic message had been too slow. The sniper fired a heart-shaped beam. It was heavy and fast. It hit the ground beneath Tien. The floor shattered. Tien lost his footing. In a normal battle, Tien could fly to safety. But in the world of Void, flying was forbidden. Unless you had wings. Tien fell. He reached for the edge. His fingers slipped on the smooth stone. The Emperor saw this happen in slow motion. He had a choice. He could use a burst of psychic power to catch Tien, but that would cost him. The tether to his real body on the golden throne was already shaking. If he used too much power, the demons would break through the gate on Earth. He calculated the value of Tien. Tien was a loyal soldier, but he was weak compared to the others. The Emperor made the cold choice. He did not act. Tien fell into the void. He appeared a moment later in the spectator stands. He was out. Universe 7 had lost its first fighter. The loss hit the team like a physical blow. Gohan looked distracted. He shouted Tien's name. This distraction was what the wolves wanted. Bergamo seized the moment. He grew larger. He absorbed the energy of the battle. He became a giant. He swung a massive fist at Gohan. Gohan was looking at the stands. He did not see the punch coming. The Emperor moved. He could not afford to lose Gohan. Gohan was a strategic asset. The Emperor flashed across the stone. He appeared in front of Gohan. He did not block the giant fist with his arm. He used a psychic shield. The barrier shimmered like gold glass. Bergamo's fist hit the shield. The ground cracked for 50 yards in every direction. The impact was tremendous. Back on Earth, in the dark throne room, the real body of the Emperor convulsed. A spark flew from a cable. A tech priest screamed as a machine overloaded. The Emperor felt a spike of agony in his mind. It felt like a nail being driven into his brain. He ignored it. He pushed back. The psychic shield exploded outward. The force threw Bergamo backward. The giant wolf rolled across the arena. The Emperor turned to Gohan. His eyes were glowing with anger. He spoke into Gohan's mind. He did not offer comfort. He offered correction. He told Gohan that emotions were a liability. He told him that looking at the fallen was how you joined them. He ordered Gohan to focus. Gohan looked at the golden giant. He saw the tension in the Emperor's jaw. He realized that the Emperor was in pain. He nodded. He wiped the dust from his face. He powered up. His energy flared white. The Emperor looked at the battlefield. The situation was deteriorating. Goku was playing with a dangerous enemy from Universe 6. Vegeta was arguing with a robot. Frieza was torturing a bat creature. There was no cohesion. The Emperor realized he could not command them like Space Marines. They were too independent. He had to manipulate them. He had to herd them like cattle. He identified the next threat. It was not a fighter. It was the arena itself. The central pillar was being damaged. If it collapsed, the footing would become unstable. He needed to clear the center. He looked at the trio de danger. They were regrouping. They were preparing a combined attack. The triangle of danger. They gathered energy in a pyramid shape. It was a beam capable of pushing anyone off the edge. The Emperor did not wait for them to fire. He called to Vegeta. He projected a challenge into Vegeta's mind. He told Vegeta that the wolves believed they were better royalty than the Prince of Saiyans. It was a simple lie, but it worked. Vegeta's pride flared. He stopped arguing with the robot. He turned toward the wolves. He saw them charging their attack. Vegeta flew over. He landed next to the Emperor. Vegeta asked what the Golden Tin Man wanted. The Emperor pointed his sword at the wolves. He said they were an execution squad. He said they required a royal sentence. Vegeta smirked. He liked that. He charged the final flash. The Emperor charged his own attack. He gathered psychic fire in his hand. It looked like a miniature sun. The wolves fired their beam. It was a massive triangle of blue and purple light. Vegeta fired his yellow beam. The Emperor released his golden fire. The three energies collided in the center of the arena. The sound was gone. The light was too bright. It washed out all color. For a second, there was only white. Then, physics took over. The combined power of Vegeta and the Emperor was too much. It shattered the wolves' attack. The beam pushed through. It engulfed the three wolves. They were swept off their feet. They screamed as they were pushed out of bounds. Bergamo, Basil, and Lavender appeared in the stands. They were out. All 10 fighters of Universe 9 were now eliminated. The Emperor lowered his hand. Smoke rose from his gauntlet. He felt another wire snap on the golden throne. His vision blurred for a microsecond. He stabilized it. He looked up at the floating dais where the Xanos sat. The little kings were clapping. The Grand Priest smiled. He spoke in a happy voice. He announced that Universe 9 had no warriors left. This was the moment the Emperor had been analyzing. He knew the rules, but knowing the rules and seeing the enforcement were different things. He watched the Xenos raise their hands. A white light surrounded the gods. They closed their fists. Universe 9 vanished. It did not explode. It did not crumble. It was simply deleted. The fighters in the stands vanished. The angel of Universe 9 looked sad, but remained. The destruction was absolute. It was clean. It was terrifying. The arena went silent. The fighting stopped. Everyone looked at the empty space where the Universe 9 spectators had been. Goku looked shocked. He had thought this was a game. Now he saw the hole in reality. Vegeta looked pale. Even Frieza stopped smiling. The Emperor stood like a statue. Inside his mind, gears were turning at the speed of light. He had seen horrors. He had seen the Chaos Gods eat souls. He had seen the Tyranids strip planets. But this was different. This was administrative erasure. It was bureaucracy made manifest. The Xenos were not evil. They were indifferent. They were like a child burning ants with a magnifying glass. The Emperor realized the true scale of the threat. The Chaos Gods were a cancer. The Xenos were the surgeon who cut off the limb. This changed everything. The Emperor's strategy shifted. Before, he wanted to win by points. He wanted to hold the line. Now he understood that points were irrelevant. The Xenos responded to spectacle. They responded to dominance. And the only way to ensure the survival of humanity was to be the last one standing. There could be no draws. There could be no mercy. He turned to his team. The shock had frozen them. This was dangerous. A frozen soldier is a dead soldier. The Emperor amplified his voice. He used his psychic power to make it boom across the arena. He did not shout. He spoke with the weight of history. He told them to look at the empty space. He told them that was their families. That was their children. That was their future. He told them that fear was a reaction, but courage was a decision. He ordered them to move. He ordered them to fight. His voice broke the spell. Goku clenched his fists. His shock turned into determination. Vegeta gritted his teeth. Gohan's eyes hardened. They understood now. The game was over. The war had begun. The Emperor felt a shift in the air. The other universes were also reacting. Fear made them desperate. Desperation made them dangerous. A group of warriors from Universe 4 attacked. They were invisible. They used stealth. The Emperor sensed them. He did not warn the others. He needed to conserve his psychic bandwidth. He simply swung his sword at the empty air. The blade connected with something solid. An invisible fighter appeared, unconscious, and flew off the edge. The Emperor looked at the timer. The psychological landscape had changed. The first universe had fallen. The first cracks in the Emperor's physical containment were showing. The real war was about to start. The erasure of Universe 9 left a cold taste in the air. The void felt colder. The Emperor of Mankind stood on a jagged piece of rock. He was recalibrating his threat assessment. He watched Goku fight. Goku was fighting a woman from Universe 6 named Caulifla. She was a Saiyan. The Emperor watched her turn golden. Super Saiyan. He analyzed the transformation. It was a biological response to rage and need. It was powerful, but it was undisciplined. Goku was teaching her. He was showing her how to go further. He showed her Super Saiyan 2. The Emperor felt a spike of frustration. This was the weakness of Universe 7. They treated war like a sport. They helped the enemy improve. To the Emperor, this was madness. You do not sharpen the enemy's blade. You break it. He decided he could not intervene with Goku. Goku was a force of nature. Trying to control him was like trying to command a hurricane. Instead, the Emperor looked for the other assets he could use. He looked for Frieza. Frieza was floating near the edge of the arena. He was watching the fighting with a bored expression. The Emperor walked toward him. The other fighters gave the Emperor a wide berth. His aura was heavy and oppressive. He stopped 10 feet from Frieza. Frieza looked at the golden giant. He asked if the monarch of monkeys had come to give him orders. The Emperor looked down at the alien tyrant. He did not use telepathy this time. He spoke with his projected voice. It sounded metallic and hollow. He told Frieza that he had studied his history. He knew Frieza was a conqueror. He knew Frieza desired the Dragon Balls to control the gods. Frieza smiled. He admitted it. The Emperor offered a transaction. He said that he did not care if Frieza lived or died after this tournament. But right now, they shared a goal: survival. The Emperor pointed to a group of warriors from Universe 10. They were birdmen who were flying in a tight formation. They were picking off the weak fighters. The Emperor told Frieza that those birds were a nuisance. He asked Frieza to remove them, but he gave a specific instruction. He told Frieza to do it slowly. He told Frieza to make it terrifying. Frieza raised an eyebrow. He asked why. The Emperor explained the logic. The other universes were watching. If they were afraid, they would make mistakes. Fear was a weapon. The Emperor wanted the arena to know that Universe 7 was not just strong. He wanted them to know they were cruel. Frieza laughed. It was a genuine laugh. He said he liked this plan. He said the Emperor was much more interesting than Goku. Frieza flew toward the birdmen. He began his work. He fired death beams that pierced their wings but did not knock them out. He made them fall. He kicked them back into the air. He played with them. The birds screamed. The sound echoed across the arena. Fighters from other universes stopped to watch. They saw the cruelty of Universe 7. They shivered. The Emperor watched without emotion. He did not enjoy the cruelty. He simply used it. It was a strategic necessity. While the enemy was watching Frieza, the Emperor moved. He flanked the distracted enemies. He found a fighter from Universe 10 who was watching his friends get tortured. The fighter was a large sumo wrestler named Imperium. He was distracted by the screams. The Emperor struck. He did not use a weapon. He used a psychic hammer blow. He slammed his mind into Imperium's mind. The sumo wrestler's eyes rolled back. He went brain dead for 10 seconds. The Emperor pushed him with one finger. The giant man toppled over the edge. It was efficient. It was silent. It was the difference between Frieza and the Emperor. Frieza wanted to play. The Emperor wanted to finish the job. But the chain reaction had begun. The cruelty of Frieza and the cold efficiency of the Emperor drew attention. The Justice Troopers of Universe 11 noticed. Toppo, the leader of the Pride Troopers, saw Frieza torturing the birds. He saw the Emperor discarding bodies like trash. Toppo was a hero. He believed in justice. He saw Universe 7 as a universe of villains. Toppo gathered his team. He told them that Universe 7 was evil. He told them they had to be purged. This was the consequence of the Emperor's strategy. By using fear, he had united the heroes against them. The Emperor saw Toppo pointing at him. He saw the red uniforms of the Pride Troopers. He calculated the outcome. This was acceptable. He wanted the enemy to focus on him. If they focused on him, they would leave the weaker members of his team alone. He was the tank. He would draw the aggro. Suddenly, a new threat emerged. It came from Universe 3, the robots. They had been analyzing the data. Their leader, a small creature named Moscow, inside a giant metal suit, had calculated the Emperor's weakness. The robots realized that the Emperor was not a biological organism in the standard sense. They scanned his energy. They saw it was a projection. They realized the source was elsewhere. The robots of Universe 3 combined. 3 of them locked together to form a larger machine. They did not attack with lasers. They attacked with a signal. They broadcast a jamming frequency. It was a high-pitched sonic scream. It was designed to disrupt psychic waves. The Emperor froze. The signal hit his projection like a physical wave. His golden armor flickered. For a second, his leg became transparent. He stumbled. The connection to the Golden Throne was being jammed. On Earth, the alarms blared. The tech priests ran in circles. The Emperor's physical body began to convulse violently. The Astronomicon, the guiding light for all space travel, dimmed. Ships across the galaxy were lost in the warp. The cost of this tournament was becoming galactic. In the arena, the Emperor fell to one knee. Goku saw this. He stopped his training session with Cauliflower. He shouted to the Emperor. He asked if he was okay. The Emperor could not speak. The static in his head was too loud. The combined robot marched toward him. It raised a spinning saw blade. It intended to cut the projection in half. Androids 17 and 18 appeared. They were the shield. They had been following the Emperor's orders to patrol the perimeter. They saw the leader in trouble. 17 jumped in front of the saw. He used his energy shield. Green light blocked the metal blade. Sparks flew. 18 jumped over the shield. She fired a blast of energy at the robot's legs. The robot stumbled. The jamming signal wavered. The Emperor seized the opening. He focused his will. He pushed through the pain. He stood up. He looked at the machine. He hated machines, that thought. They were an abomination. He reached out with his hand. He did not use telekinesis to push. He used technomancy. He spoke to the machine spirit of the enemy robot. He commanded it to yield. He injected a scrap code into its systems. It was a logic virus from the dark age of technology. The Universe 3 robot stopped moving. Its lights turned from red to blue. It started to shake. The components rejected each other. The robot fell apart. It dismantled itself. The pieces fell to the floor. The Emperor fell to his knee again. The effort had drained him. He was breathing heavy, phantom breaths. 17 looked at him. 17 was a cyborg. He felt a strange kinship with this man who was half machine. He asked if the Emperor needed a break. The Emperor shook his head. He said there are no breaks in war. He stood up slowly. His armor solidified again. But the damage was done. The other universes had seen him falter. They knew he had a limit. They knew he was not invincible. The Grand Priest announced that half the time had passed. The central pillar began to descend. The arena shifted. The light changed from green to purple. The atmosphere became heavier. The Emperor looked at his team. They were tired. Roshi's absence was felt. They lacked the magical utility the old man would have brought. But they had the Emperor's strategic mind. He gathered them. He spoke into their minds. He told them the phase of skirmishing was over. Now came the phase of attrition. He told them to stop looking for knockouts and start looking for survival. He ordered the androids to stay with Goku. Goku was wasting too much energy. He needed batteries. He ordered Gohan and Piccolo to guard the edge. Then he felt a gaze heavier than the Xenos. He looked across the arena. Jiren was looking at him, the strongest mortal. Jiren had not moved for 20 minutes. Now he took a step forward. The Emperor gripped his sword. He knew this battle was coming. He knew he could not beat Jiren in a straight fight, not in this projected form. But he had to delay him. He had to buy time for Goku to find the limit. The Emperor walked toward Jiren. It was a slow walk. Every step rang out on the tiles. It was the meeting of two absolute philosophies. Jiren believed strength was solitude. The Emperor believed strength was the sacrifice of the self for the species. The act ended as they stood 10 paces apart. The air between them cracked with lightning. The real catastrophe was not the loss of a fighter. It was the realization that to win, the Emperor might have to burn out his own soul completely. He was prepared to do it. The Golden Throne could find a new corpse. Humanity could not find a new universe. The space between the Emperor of Mankind and Jiren the Gray was not just distance. It was a gap between two different laws of physics. Jiren stood with his arms crossed. He did not look like a fighter. He looked like a mountain that had decided to become a man. His eyes were black and empty. He did not leak energy. He kept it all inside. He was a perfect vessel of strength. The Emperor stood 10 paces away. He was glowing with gold light, but the light was flickering. It was like a candle in a windstorm. The wind was the sheer pressure of Jiren's existence. The Emperor analyzed the threat. He had fought gods before. He had fought the Catan, who were star vampires. He had fought the Chaos gods in the warp. But Jiren was different. Jiren was a mortal who had simply refused to be weak. There was no magic trick to Jiren. There was no special technique to disable. He was just stronger. This was a problem. The Emperor was a strategist. He looked for levers to pull. He looked for weaknesses to exploit. He scanned Jiren's mind. He hit a wall. Jiren's mind was like a steel bunker. There were no doors. Jiren spoke first. His voice was deep. It did not sound arrogant. It sounded like a fact. He told the Emperor to leave. He said the Emperor was already broken. He said a dead man could not win a tournament for the living. The Emperor did not respond with anger. He responded with truth. He projected his voice into the air. He said that death was not the end of duty. He said that as long as humanity existed, he could not rest. He raised his sword. The flames on the blade turned from red to white. This was the fire of the Astronomicon. It was the soul fire that guided ships through hell. The Emperor lunged. He did not move with speed. He moved with instant transmission. He folded space. He appeared behind Jiren. He swung the sword at Jiren's neck. It was a strike that would have cut a planet in half. Jiren did not turn around. He lifted one finger. He caught the blade on his fingertip. The fire exploded. White flame washed over the arena. The heat was intense. The rocks on the floor turned into lava. But Jiren did not move. He flicked his finger. The force of the flick traveled up the sword. It traveled up the Emperor's arm. It hit his shoulder. The golden pauldron shattered. The metal exploded outward. The Emperor was thrown backward. He crashed through 3 pillars of rock. He hit the ground and slid for 100 yards. He stopped at the feet of Goku. Goku looked down. He looked worried. He had never seen the Emperor get hit like that. The Emperor stood up. His left arm was hanging limp. The armor was gone. Underneath the armor, the projection showed the truth. It showed a withered grey arm. It looked like the arm of a mummy. The illusion of the healthy golden warrior was failing. The damage to his concentration was revealing the corpse on the throne. Goku asked if he could help. The Emperor snapped his bone back into place. He did not flinch. He told Goku to stay back. He said this enemy required a sacrifice. He said Goku was the win condition, not the tank. The Emperor walked back toward Jiren. He was limping slightly. This was the moment of the small choice. The Emperor knew he could not beat Jiren. If he fought Jiren alone, he would be destroyed in 5 minutes. His projection would dissipate. Universe 7 would lose its tactician. But he also saw the board. He saw that Toppo and Dispo, the other elite troopers of Universe 11, were moving. They were targeting the exhausted members of Universe 7. Dispo was a rabbit who moved faster than sound. He was targeting Gohan. Toppo was targeting Vegeta. The Emperor had a choice. He could use his remaining psychic strength to fight Jiren and try to hurt him. Or he could use that strength to save his team. If he fought Jiren, he might scratch the grey wall. If he saved the team, he would leave himself open to Jiren. It was a choice between ego and victory. The Emperor had no ego left. It had burned away thousands of years ago. He made the choice. He stopped walking toward Jiren. He turned his back on the strongest mortal. He looked at Gohan. Dispo was a blur of purple light. He was about to kick Gohan off the edge. Gohan could not track him. The Emperor raised his good hand. He spoke a single word of power. It was a word from the tongue of creation. Halt! The word hit the air like a hammer. The physics of the arena obeyed. Dispo froze in mid-air. His speed was cancelled. He fell to the ground confused. Gohan saw the opening. He fired a Masenko blast. It hit Dispo and knocked him back. Then the Emperor looked at Toppo. Toppo had Vegeta in a bear hug. He was crushing Vegeta's ribs. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. He cast a psychic illusion. He made Toppo see a villain. He made Toppo think he was hugging a bomb. Toppo flinched. He let go. Vegeta gasped for air and rolled away. The Emperor had saved 2 teammates, but he had turned his back on Jiren. Jiren did not attack while the Emperor was turned. He waited. He watched the Emperor save his friends. Jiren shook his head. He said that trust was a weakness. He said that relying on others made you soft. He walked forward. He punched the Emperor in the spine. The impact was soundless. It was too hard for sound. The Emperor's back arched. The golden armor on his chest shattered from the inside out. The force wave blew a hole in the arena floor. The Emperor fell face down. He did not get up. His projection flickered violently. For a second he disappeared entirely. Then he reappeared. But he was transparent. He was a ghost. On Earth, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the consequences were immediate. The golden throne screamed. The metal groaned. A pipe burst, spraying boiling coolant onto the custodes standing guard. The Emperor's physical body convulsed. His jaw opened in a silent scream. The psychic backlash hit the soul system. On Mars, the machine stopped working. On Titan, the Grey Knights fell to their knees, clutching their heads. The beacon of the Astronomicon went dark. For the first time in 10,000 years, the light of the Emperor went out. Ships in the warp were instantly lost. Demons clawed at the hulls of 1,000,000 vessels. The navigators went blind. The Imperium was blind. This was the massive outcome. To save Gohan and Vegeta, in a tournament in another dimension, the Emperor had plunged his own galaxy into darkness. In the arena, the Emperor lay on the broken tiles. He could feel the darkness back home. He could hear the screams of his people. He felt the guilt. It was a mountain of guilt. But he did not stop. He used the guilt as fuel. He pushed himself up. He was on his hands and knees. He looked up at Jiren. Jiren looked down. He asked why the Emperor continued. He asked what drove a dead man to fight for a future he could not have. The Emperor stood up. He was shaking. He looked like a broken statue. He spoke. He said he did not fight for himself. He fought because humanity was a species that refused to die. He said he was the shield, and a shield does not break until the man behind it is safe. Jiren prepared to finish him. He raised a hand glowing with red energy, but then the air changed. A heat rose up from behind the Emperor. It was a hot blue heat. It was Goku. Goku had watched the Emperor fall. He had watched the Golden Giant take a beating for the team. Goku did not understand politics. He did not understand the Imperium, but he understood sacrifice. He saw a teammate giving everything. It made him angry, but not the hot anger of a Super Saiyan. It was a quiet, focused anger. Goku stepped past the Emperor. His hair was black, but it had a silver outline. His eyes were silver. He moved without thinking. He entered Ultra Instinct Omen. The heat coming off him pushed Jiren back. The Emperor looked at Goku. He analyzed the energy. It was divine technique. It was the body moving without the delay of the brain. The Emperor recognized it. It was perfect combat efficiency. It was what he had tried to create with the Primarchs. He realized that this Xenos, this monkey man, had achieved something the Emperor never could. The Emperor was a being of pure mind. He controlled everything. Goku was letting go of control. Goku attacked Jiren. The fight was a blur. They moved faster than time. The Emperor stepped back. He was now the support. He watched the fight. He saw that Goku was strong, but he was raw. The form was incomplete. The Emperor saw Frieza hiding behind a rock. Frieza was laughing softly. Frieza had seen the Emperor break. He had seen the weakness. Frieza was plotting. The Emperor sent a telepathic message to Frieza. It was a cold whisper. He told Frieza that if he tried to betray them now, the Emperor would not kill him. He would do something worse. He would use his remaining power to erase Frieza's soul so completely that he would never go to hell. He would just cease to be. Frieza stopped laughing. He looked at the transparent golden ghost. He nodded. The tournament clock showed 5 minutes. The central pillar of the arena was a twisted ruin. The sky was a swirling void of green and purple. Only a few fighters remained on the shattered stage. Jiren stood in the center. He was bruised, but unbroken. Goku was on his knees panting. His silver eyes had faded. The ultra instinct had burned him out. Vegeta was standing, but he was holding his left arm. One of his eyes was swollen shut. The Emperor of Mankind stood near the edge. He was a flickering ghost of gold. Frieza was missing, hidden in the rubble. Android 17 was somewhere in the debris. The Emperor calculated the odds. They were less than 1%. Jiren was simply too durable. They had hit him with everything. They had hit him with beams that could destroy solar systems. He had walked through them. The Emperor knew that physical force was no longer the answer. They needed a psychological break. They needed to shatter Jiren's resolve. Vegeta stepped forward. He spat blood on the ground. He powered up one last time. His hair turned dark blue. He charged Jiren. It was a suicide run. Vegeta knew it. The Emperor knew it. Vegeta punched Jiren in the gut. Jiren did not flinch. Jiren hammered Vegeta into the ground. Vegeta stood up. He fired a final flash. It was the brightest light the tournament had seen. It hit Jiren directly. Jiren punched the beam. The beam shattered. Jiren punched Vegeta. Vegeta fell. He fell off the edge of the arena. As he fell, he threw a small ball of energy to Goku. It was his last gift, a donation of spirit. Vegeta appeared in the stands. He was out. Now it was the end. Goku, the Emperor 17, and Frieza against Jiren. Jiren looked at them. He spoke about strength. He said strength was absolute. He said friends were a liability because they could be killed. He said he lost his parents, his teacher, his friends. He was alone because being alone meant you could not be hurt. The Emperor stepped forward. His golden armor was gone. He appeared now as he did in the 41st millennium. A man in a simple robe but radiating power. He spoke to Jiren. He did not shout. He used his psychic voice to project images into Jiren's mind. He showed Jiren the future of a universe without trust. He showed him the 41st millennium. He showed him the corpse starch factories. He showed him the lobotomized servitors. He showed him a galaxy of endless war where there was no hope, only survival. He showed Jiren the golden throne. He showed him the price of absolute strength. He told Jiren that this was his victory, a throne of gold in a kingdom of dust. He said Jiren would be the strongest, and he would be the king of a graveyard. Jiren flinched. For the first time, his eyes widened. He saw the horror of the Emperor's reality. He saw that strength without connection led to a living hell. The vision shook him. His aura wavered. Goku stood up. He had absorbed Vegeta's energy. He had heard the Emperor's words. He looked at Jiren. He said he did not want to be a king. He just wanted to protect his friends. Goku's hair turned silver again. This time it was different. It was mastered ultra instinct. The heat was gone. There was only calm. Goku attacked. This time, he did not just push Jiren back. He hurt him. He punched Jiren in the face. Jiren bled. The fight that followed was legendary. It shook the void. The gods stood up. The Emperor watched. He saw the potential of humanity in Goku. He saw a man who had broken his limits not through suffering but through desire. It was a lesson the Emperor had forgotten. But the form had a time limit. Goku's back exploded with black lightning. The toll of the power was too high. Goku collapsed. He lay on the ground, unable to move. Jiren stood over him. Jiren raised his hand to finish it. Not yet, a voice hissed. Frieza appeared on a pillar of rock. He fired a death beam at Jiren's hand. Jiren slapped it away. Then Android 17 jumped out of the rubble. He fired a blast at Jiren's back. Jiren stumbled. The Emperor moved. He knew this was the final play. He could not punch Jiren. He had no physical strength left, but he had his mind. He focused every ounce of his remaining psychic power. He drew from the Astronomicon. He drew from the thousands of souls being sacrificed on Earth right now to keep him alive. He created a stasis field. Golden chains of light erupted from the ground. They wrapped around Jiren. They were not physical chains. They were chains of will. They were the Emperor's command to obey. Jiren struggled. The chains cracked. The Emperor screamed. His projection began to dissolve into dust. His legs disappeared. Then his waist. He was burning his soul to hold the monster still. Strike now, the Emperor commanded. His voice was breaking. Goku pulled himself up. He could not go silver again. He went gold. Super Saiyan. Frieza powered up to Golden Frieza. 17 powered up his shields. It was an impossible team. A saint, a tyrant, a machine, and a corpse god. Goku and Frieza charged together. They flew side by side. Frieza looked at Goku. He smiled a wicked smile. Goku smiled back. They reached Jiren. Jiren broke the Emperor's chains, but he was a fraction of a second too late. Goku threw Frieza. Frieza tackled Jiren. They slammed into the ground. Goku followed. He drove his knees into Jiren's chest. They were a tangle of limbs and energy. They were pushing Jiren toward the edge. Jiren fought back. He pounded Frieza's back. He crushed Goku's shoulder, but they did not let go. The Emperor, now just a floating torso and head of golden light, used the last of his energy. He pushed them. He used a telekinetic shove. It was not strong, but it was enough. The three of them, Goku, Frieza, and Jiren, fell off the edge. They tumbled into the void. Silence fell over the arena. Everyone looked at the central pillar. Who was left? Android 17 stood on a small piece of rock. He was the last man standing. The Grand Priest's voice rang out. Universe 7 wins. The Emperor's projection looked at 17. The Emperor nodded once. The projection shattered. The golden light faded. The Emperor was gone. He had returned to the throne. The Super Dragon balls were the size of planets. They floated in the void, golden and ancient. The dragon god, Salamar, was summoned. He was a dragon that dwarfed galaxies. His voice filled the universe. He asked for the wish. Android 17 looked at the dragon. He looked at the erased spots where the other universes used to be. He looked at Goku, who was covered in bandages. He looked at the spot where the Emperor had been. 17 had a family. He had a boat. He wanted to travel, but he remembered the Emperor's vision. He remembered the graveyard universe. He did not want that. 17 made his wish. He asked to restore all the erased universes. The dragon's eyes glowed. The wish was granted. In a flash of light, the universes returned. Universe 11 appeared. Jiren was sitting on a bench. He looked at his hands. He remembered the fight. He remembered the Emperor's words. He looked at Toppo. He said he had much to think about. Back in Universe 7, on Earth, the team arrived. They were on the grassy lawn of Capsule Corp. Bulma had a feast waiting. Everyone was happy. Frieza had been resurrected by Whis as a reward. He flew off into space to rebuild his army. Goku was eating meat, but one member was missing. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains in the Imperial Palace, the golden doors of the throne room were sealed shut. The air was filled with ozone and incense. The tech priests were weeping. They had thought the Emperor was dead. The Astronomicon had been dark for an hour. 1,000,000 ships had been lost. Demons had breached the walls of reality on 100 worlds. But then a spark returned. The machine hummed. The golden throne lit up. The psychic beacon flared back to life. It was weak, but it was there. The Emperor sat on the throne. His physical body was more damaged than before. His bones were black, his skin was dust, but his mind was active. He looked into the warp. He saw the Chaos Gods laughing at the damage, but the Emperor did not feel despair. He felt something new. He had seen a universe where mortals could challenge gods. He had seen a warrior who fought not out of duty, but out of joy. He had seen that even a tyrant like Frieza could be useful. The Emperor closed his mind's eye. He began the long work of repairing his empire. He would not change his methods. He was too old for that. He would still be ruthless. He would still be cold. But in the corner of his vast fractured mind he kept a memory. It was the memory of a silver-eyed man fighting for his friends. It was a strategic data point. But for the first time in 10,000 years, it was also a hope. The Emperor of mankind waited. He would watch, and he would prepare. For the next war was always coming.